666.
Lucian, you're one big thing this week.
Foxconn, the world's largest contract assembler of consumer electronics, is in talks with Saudi officials about the prospect of opening a $9 billion factory in Neom. This is according to a report in the Wall Street Journal. The company is looking at jointly building a $9 billion multi-purpose facility that could make microchips, EV components, and other electronics like displays. Foxconn is known as the Hanhai Precision Industry Company Limited, Foxconn Trading Technology Group. I think they should stick with Foxconn. It rolls off the tongue a lot easier. It's a Taiwanese multinational electronics contract manufacturer, and it operates 12 plants in 9 cities across China and assembles the, of course, iPhone for Apple. People familiar with the talks between Foxconn and Saudi Arabia said the potential factory would be a dual line foundry for surface mount technology and wafer fabrication in Neom. Discussions over the project started last year. The report added that Riyadh wants the company to guarantee that it would direct at least 2/3 of the foundry's production into Foxconn's existing supply chain, quote, to ensure there are buyers for its products and the project is ultimately profitable. According to the Wall Street Journal, Foxconn reported that full year net profit last year rose 37% to a record $5 billion on the back of robust demand for consumer electronics during the pandemic and cloud and networking projects. Meanwhile, Richard, a lot is happening in Neom right now, which is sort of why I was interested in this. $9 billion is a lot of money, but Saudi Arabia is pressing ahead with a massive green hydrogen project also located in Neom. This is according to Bloomberg. The kingdom is on track to sell carbon-free hydrogen from the $5 billion project by 2026. The CEO of the head of the energy and water for U.S.-based air products and chemicals said that they will start building this project very soon. Additionally, as we will discuss a little bit later, Neom is one of the hottest real estate destinations in Saudi Arabia right now, and that's according to Knight Frank. And the reason why I sort of mashed all of these together, Richard, is when Neom was announced, it was so ambitious, and it was just the ultimate Saudi mega project announcement. Big figure, big number, way in the future. And fast forward, 3 to 4 or 5 years later, we actually see a lot of traction for Neom. And the doubters right out of the gate said it'll never happen. The realists out of the gate said it's going to happen. It's just like Vision 2030. It's a big goal. Wherever they land is going to be progress and better than nothing. And what it looks like to me right now is Neom is full steam ahead. What do you think?
This is interesting, and I like your position of Neom, having been a sort of aspirational mirage dream, whatever it is, and increasingly things are coming online and reality is striking. But the old adage in basketball, never up, never in. So if you don't take your shot, you'll never make a shot. Mm-hmm. The point being is Foxconn, a huge multinational, is doing just a really influential company, is looking at Saudi Arabia. Now, Foxconn operates, like you said, 12 plants across 9 cities, 8 of them in China, the remaining ones in Europe, Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam, and they have difficulties with their the China plants, especially when there's always a threat of a trade war between the U.S. and China. So they're looking elsewhere. And geostrategically, the Gulf region makes sense. And traditionally, it's just let's go straight to Dubai or Abu Dhabi. Now, Saudi Arabia is in play, and it happens to be Neom, and it's in play. Now, Foxconn is going to want – so, Foxconn, I think, is probably going to put the Emirates and Saudi Arabia in competition, and they want huge incentives, financing, tax holidays, maybe direct equity co-investment and that sort of thing. I hope Saudi Arabia does it all, because it's really interesting when you think about what Foxconn is looking at. They're looking at semiconductor chips, electric vehicle components. Fascinating to have that in Neom when just down the coast in King Abdullah Economic City is going to be a Lucid factory.
Mm-hmm. Great point.
And so you have these huge important industrial bases that they're trying, manufacturing hubs that they're trying to put, which has all the knock-ons. And one way to really achieve the technical goals of Vision 2030 is to embed the country into a global tech supply chain. So that's one of the reasons when Riyadh says we want you to guarantee that direct at least 2/3 of the foundry's production into Foxconn existing supply chain, they basically want to. If you come here, then we're not going to be an ancillary business. We're going to be part of your supply chain, which is a huge logistical and technical leap forward for a country like Saudi Arabia. And then if you match it with an EV plant in Lucid and all the things that might come from that over time, and again, this isn't real yet. Foxconn is just looking, and it may go elsewhere, but it's quite exciting. And as you say, it would be it would transform a lot of things and jumpstart a lot of things in terms of manufacturing and getting into a significant global supply chains.
It's really cool that these things are kind of all coming together at once. And like you said, it's not a done deal, but there's just like a lot up in the air and it's kind of happening all at once. I should mention right now too, and we included this today in our daily newsletter on all things Saudi Arabia. The kingdom is planning a really ambitious land bridge project, which will link the western and eastern parts of the kingdom. It might cost as much as $26 billion, Arab News reported today. It's just the timing of all this is very interesting. It's like full speed ahead, and it's just such a great point about Lucid being just down the coast, actually manufacturing electric vehicle cars. This would be very synergistic with the Foxconn plant potentially.
Absolutely.
Yeah, potentially. Just really cool. I sort of wanted to ask you, I had this in my notes and I don't know the answer. So I wanted to ask you, I know you love curveballs. But I think what I'm curious about, and I think what a lot of people are curious about, is Saudi Arabia is, oil prices are high, right? Aramco's operating profit last year doubled to $100 billion. So does that make Saudi Arabia a more attractive investment destination, knowing that their fiscal policy, their fiscal situation, the economy is humming along, in your opinion?
I mean, Foxconn, in theory, can go anywhere. And by the way, it can be a bit of a letdown. I mean, Foxconn was going to build a $10 billion plant in Wisconsin in 2017. All the hullabaloo, Wisconsin and the governor gave them, all sorts of incentives and that sort of thing. Well, today we're talking about, instead of a $10 billion investment, it's an $800 million investment roughly, and they're doing LED screens or something like that. It's significantly reduced. Mm-hmm. So sometimes these things don't materialize. Ultimately, a place like Foxconn, a company like Foxconn, has to look at, and it's going to be a concern with Saudi Arabia. All right, so they're going to consider. All right, it's not a huge market. It's not like we're going to do it in EU. Although if they look at the larger region, it's a big market. There's labor costs. Potential unpredictable operating environment. I think all those things are being reduced in Saudi Arabia. So I guess the answer to your question is absolutely. It's always a bonus to come into a politically stable economy that is growing and appears to be well managed. So I would say that's an attraction. But, Foxconn, if they come in, are going to be doing it for decades. So they have to look at other things, and they have to compare it, point for point against other potential sites. Mm-hmm. And which is why, it may be a bidding contest. It may be, all right, we're going to go to whoever gives us the best incentives. And, but the fact is, they invited Saudi Arabia to compete. Mm-hmm. And 5 years ago, that wouldn't have been the case.
It wasn't just handed to the UAE, or they didn't just go look at the UAE and say, this is our shot in the Middle East. It's also interesting because, please, no.
No, exactly right. I mean, that this sort of, this is like, they got, it's an honor to be nominated. They may not win it, but they actually have a run at it. And again, 5 years ago, I don't think Foxconn would have thought about Saudi Arabia as a potential site.